each and everyone. I, Chaitanya Khadvarkar,
I, Mansi Take,
express our immense gratitude to all of you for being the part of today's event.
It's with a tremendous pleasure that we welcome you all to our annual HR Horizon Conclave. On behalf of University of Mumbai's Alkesh Dinesh Modi Institute for Financial and Management Studies, in collaboration with National Human Resource Development Network, Mumbai Chapter.
The panel discussion for today's event is on management of virtual workforce. It's our honor and privilege to welcome you all, our guests, faculty member, students, as well as first-year students of MSc and MMS, and non-teaching staff. We start our event with the university song as an honor to the University of Mumbai.
We would now like to show you the glimpse of our institute.
The center is defined as the focal point around which any object revolves. We, however, define the center to mean much more. It's where knowledge and ideas form a nucleus, where dreams intersect with possibilities, a starting point from which your life can start. And this is how we define ATMI as our center. We want to welcome you to ATMI, not just a business school, but a home for possibilities.
invite our MMS coordinator, Professor Dr. Aruna Deshpande Madam, to introduce the theme of HR Horizon 2022.
Good afternoon. It gives me a great honor to welcome today our guest from NHRDN, the panelist, our President of NHRDN Mumbai chapter, Professor Vijayan, Fatima, who is coordinating from the NHRDN team, my faculty colleagues who have come from different colleges across Mumbai. Thank you, Joss, thank you, ma'am, and all my faculty colleagues from the institute, director ma'am, and your students. I think we have students across from different streams. We at our institute, at Alkesh Dinesh Modi, we conduct this program, HR Horizon, every year. A panel discussion based on the current contemporary HR themes or what the HR, corporate HR expects from the management students. See, we are a B school. We run 3 programs. Our institute runs these management programs, that is MMS, MSc Finance and BMS. So from that perspective, we cater to the industry manpower requirement. So to bridge this gap, we always have different activities as a B school which we conduct. We conduct through the academic purpose, we conduct through the different placement activities also. Because at the end of the day, managing the whole workforce according to the business requirement is something in practice which the corporates help us to groom our students from. So from that perspective, today we having a panel discussion, same HR Horizon 2022. And today's theme is, as we all know, is about management of virtual workforce. Like we all have recovered from a pandemic phase of 2 years, and we are now so much in connect with technology. Like technology has become a part of our daily lifestyle. Now how do we, this was not so much, the dependence was not so much pre-pandemic. Now post-pandemic, that dependence, that spillover effect is still very high and it will go on increasing. Organizations have to change their strategies from office to work from home. Now what? It's hybrid, or what jobs, what functions. And then the workforce, the coming in students or the coming in new candidates, what the corporates expects from them. How should be their work styles, how should be their perspective on productivity, or how should they be compatible on work processes. So that is one perspective. Another perspective which is very, very important is the student's perception. Like we being a B school, we need to understand, I mean as teachers, we need to have that perspective that how students should look at today's businesses. Isn't it? So their preparedness towards these changing environments, changing cultures, changing technology, adaptation to technology, different softwares coming in, plus the HR perspective, what HR expects from them, of different organizations, different sectors in the organizations. So just today's panel discussion will actually lead us in this perspective, like virtual workforce or hybrid workforce or physical workforce. We have experts here from different industries who will be discussing on this theme today. I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. We request our institute director, Professor Dr. Smita Shukla madam, to welcome all and address us.
Good afternoon to all. I welcome Mr. Senthil Kumar, Associate Vice President HDFC Life, Ms. Neetu Thomas, Deputy Vice President at Kotak Life, Ms. Savita Krishnamurthy, DGM HR at the Great Eastern Shipping Company Limited, Mr. Babu Bhaskaran, Vice President HR, EPI Limited, the panel moderator today, Miss Anuj Jamde, right? Not Anuja Jamde. Anju Jamde. Huh? Thank you for correcting me. Group Head, Talent and Succession Management and Portfolio Head, Young Talent Management. And most important guest for the day, that is NHRDN team, Professor Vijayan, President Mumbai Chapter NHRDN, and Pratima, who has been coordinating all along for this very, very important program. And let me also extend my greetings to Professor Aruna Deshpande, very important colleague in this entire team of Alkesh Dinesh Modi Institute for Financial and Management Studies. We are a department of University of Mumbai, and whenever you think of a public university, generally it comes to mind, because that is generally the thought when you think of public institutions, etc. Whether it is academics or whether it is industry setup, the thought which comes to the mind is that possibly these are the places where people talk more and work less, right? So when I refer to my colleagues, and as I spoke about Aruna Deshpande, let me just try and break that myth. So as public institution and Department of University of Mumbai, all of us, the faculty members, are extremely committed. You must have already felt so while you came in here and now while you are sitting here. And I will like to appreciate the initiatives which all have taken, and specifically Deshpande Madam. This program, which is HR Horizon, has been initiated by her. That was in 2014-15, where she initiated it. And since then, without fail, so now it has been almost 7 years, consistently every year on year, we are organizing. We have had, besides NHRDN also, we have had some other partners while we have hosted. We have also hosted it on our own. And every year we had a very important topic, which was very important from narrative of that year, has been picked up and has been discussed and has always added value to whosoever have been the participants as well as the students. So today, as I understand, there are participating students not just from our own institution, they are also from other colleges of Mumbai University. I also understand that there are some faculty members from other institutions of University of Mumbai. When I say other institutions, they are also part of us, but only thing is they are affiliated colleges. So I welcome all of them, and I am quite sure that the discussion which is taking place today with all the panel members which are present here today, two aspects. I am not from HR, but two aspects, as Madam stated, Aruna Madam stated. Two aspects. One is related to employee engagement from the perspective of the company, and second is related to can I use this term, employee perspective from the satisfaction aspect related to its connect with the company. I think both of them will be discussed, and these have been such important issues last 2 years that understanding them, A, and understanding the future implication of them, B, is very important, not just for HR professionals and those who are interested in pursuing HR, but even for teachers like us, not just because we have to teach, but also we have to manage the students. Just to share briefly, and this has been our feeling across the board, and some of the students who are attending, please do not feel bad, but what we realized when our students joined back on campus, which was somewhere around in February 2022, the batch which was never on campus, that was completely detached. That is one feeling we got. That is, they possibly, though knew that they are pursuing this degree program with us, but in terms of their involvement in processes and the commitment, there is always this commitment also to the institution. Like when I am daily coming into some setup, you have a team of involved students as well as teachers, and these involved students are standing here. But we felt that batch which was completely virtual, it was not. In fact, while we were doing their degree distribution, it was even hard to hold them in the classroom for that 1 hour of the degree distribution. And these students who completed 1 year virtually, and when they came back to the classroom, attendance has been a challenge for all of us. Making them sit in the class and listening to the lecture, which goes on and on for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, engaging them and building that feel that classroom is important, itself has been a challenge. So this possibly also has been challenge for HR. My daughter, some of our alumni who are working in the industry, they have been still at home, working from home, and somehow I don't feel that that kind of engagement is existing. Engagement, maybe companies are trying very hard. They are holding sessions where they are telling their life stories, they are reading books together, they are having story sessions. Once in 6 months they are deciding on having dinner together or lunch together, but still it's a big challenge. And is the employee also happy? So we are looking forward to what all you have to tell us from your experiences of day in, day out dealing with these scenarios, and hope that will also assist us in understanding that what's going on with our students as well, right? Now engagement level has increased, but yes, it was a challenge and it is still a challenge. So welcome all, and special thanks to NHRDN, Pratima, Vijayan sir for associating with us, and thanks for efforts undertaken by Professor Aruna Deshpande. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. We introduce Professor Vijayan Pankajakshan, President of National Human Resource Development Network, Mumbai. Sir is the present Dean of HR Academics, Chief Human Resource Officer, and Head of Career Management Center at V School, Mumbai. With this, he has 26 years of corporate experience and have been the first HR professional in Marico to be the job rotated as Head of Manufacturing at Palakkad, Kerala. Sir also holds a master's degree in Personnel Management and Industrial Relations from Tata Institute of Social Science. Requesting Sir to come on the dais and give his address.
So I think first of all, thank you to Dr. Shukla, to Professor Aruna Deshpande, my colleague on the executive committee. And I think this is a special institute. Now, why is it a special institute? I am not able to understand as yet. But I think the way the people, the teachers, students have not had much experience, and the response that we got from the campus ambassador. Are the three of them here? Not yet. That is not good. One is there. Is he there? Karan, put up your hand. Thank you for all what you've done to build the relationship between NHRDN. So I think it's an honor for me that I have a role to play where I can listen to 5 experts. You will at least not tell us there's a gender imbalance, but I can say there's a gender imbalance and sufficient males are not there. But it's a good situation. Also, great gratitude to Professor Aruna, particularly Dr. Shukla in the background. I think this is the second, and I am happy that I'm tied up, that we are working with an institute which believes in the marathon and not in 100-meter dashes. So whether I'm in NHRDN or not doesn't make a difference. I would like to be part of this every year, in whatever small way I can. Also to compliment Karan, what are the 3 names, Pratima? Karan. What's your colleague's name? Shruti? Kimaya. Kimaya, okay. I think this is an important initiative of the chapter. It's not been done anywhere else in the country. that rather than focusing only on a few entitled campuses, for want of a better word, we have spread across Mumbai. And I must admit, the students have created good energy. In the school, faculty energy is not a problem, but in some other schools, because of the students, the energy has come into the relationship. And we're talking of all the way from Bajaj to TISS to SIES. The first round of such student ambassadors, their term is ending, and they're helping us now develop the second term. So there's an institutional process that is happening. So I think today's theme, is absolutely relevant, important, and Dr. Shukla has already pointed out some areas for the panel to have a look at it. I'm just going to make 2 or 3 points. The very definition of workforce, work and worker, everything is up for examination. Is the MD a worker? I think to some extent, yes, the MD is a worker. Workforce, the security guard who works for trig security agencies, is he in the worker, is the workforce? Very much. So I think one of the areas is anybody who adds value, whether he's on your payroll, not on your payroll, voluntary contributions, everybody contributes to what is known as the workforce. And within that workforce, the challenge has come that we are not able to, or maybe the COVID taught us that we were not allowed to come together. And because of that experience, which was more of an emergency response, now the question is asking in companies and in colleges, do we really need everybody in campus or in the company every day, every month, every week? I think the answer is we can't run a 100% virtual program. It has no meaning at all. The focus on character building, the focus on what ma'am said on students' participation, I'm afraid that this happens only in engagement. I think companies are also saying the same thing. Whether it's 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, I don't think anybody wants to work in a corporate 100% or work from home, unless there is a family situation and the policies are aligned in that area. Secondly, I think virtuality has become an important part of the manager-leader. For any one of you professors, all of us, I don't think virtuality was a discipline. I think virtuality has become a discipline. There are some advantages of virtual work, but I think when you have different time zones, how do you manage Indian employees engaging with people in the United States? Somebody's sleep is getting affected, right? So these are some things which we are, at least all of us, never faced this. In recent times, dear students and other guests, moonlighting has come up. I am not taking any moralistic stance on that. But the point is, the questions that are being asked is, does the organization own the employee's time, or does the organization demands the output and the commitments? I think this itself is an interesting area to discuss. Second question is, there are the votaries that if you work for more than one company, you are disloyal to one of them. That is the assumption. Some large IT companies are taking the stand. You work only for one employer. Some other companies have been little via media. What they say is, tell us what you want to do beyond working in our company. Let's assume you want to go and teach in a college, or you want to clean the beach or something. Maybe that is allowed. So I think there can't be a better term. We are all trying to find the answers. I think the point which Aruna and Dr. Shukla in my own college, attention span is really a problem. People are not coming to class. Just imagine, I have a class of 6 MMS HR students. Not a single day 6 students have come. I can't tell myself that that I'm the worst teacher. Today I think we have an alumni taking a session over there, and my coordinator is struggling to get 6 people. So while also the rules do not permit us to teach MMS and PGDM together, because it's an independent institution, we are really struggling. And some of these struggles are showing up in the campus placement. There are people sometimes, there was a particular student, don't want to take his name. His hair, if you looked at it, was seeming like a beehive. So we said it's going to be dangerous that you're going to carry bees around. Thank God for placement, he sort of made it a little more acceptable. So these are all things which I think for 2 years it went unnoticed, and people think this is a very fashionable way. Switching off camera is another great habit. You are claiming you are there. You are actually switching off the camera and having chai pani, whatever it is. God knows whether you are in the room also. So I think this is also an issue of trust. Virtuality, I think workforce will work when there is implicit trust that whether God is looking down your throat or not, you are doing what you are supposed to be doing. So I don't want to take the thunder from our specialists who I think are of a different generation, so I think they know the subject better than me. We are all at the fag end of my generation. But I can only say anything that I learned from here today will be useful where I work also. So thanks very much, and I will ask the students to take over. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. We now request our director ma'am, to come and felicitate Vijayan, sir.
I only wanted to share that one of my students is part of the panel. Yes. Anybody get some prize from me? I'll send it to you. What is that supposed to be? So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. We now request Meeta ma'am to please stay back on the dais as we felicitate our other guests. Let us now begin with the program of HR Horizon, a panel discussion on the theme of the event, Management of Virtual Workforce. Introducing the moderator of today's event, Ms. Anju Jamde. Now requesting you to come on the dais, please. Ma'am is a group head of talent and succession management and portfolio head of young talent management at Aditya Birla Group. We request Anju ma'am to please have a seat on the dais.
Our first panelist for the event, Mr. Senthil Kumar. I request sir to come on the dais. Sir is an HR professional with around 2 decades of work experience hovering around marketing, business management, learning and development, project management and human resource. He is a certified facilitator from DDI and also a postgraduate degree holder from NMIMS, Mumbai. I request sir to have a seat.
We invite our next panelist on the dais, Ms. Neetu Thomas. Ma'am is the Deputy Vice President at Kotak Mahindra Life Insurance Company. She is seasoned HR professional, having cross-functional expertise in the area of performance management, employee engagement, business HR in the last 7 years with KLM. We request you, ma'am, to please have a seat.
Inviting the third panelist, Ms. Savita Krishnamurthy on the dais. Ma'am is an HR professional with 20 years of experience and is working with the Great Eastern Shipping Company Limited. She is graduated in Commerce from NS College and holds her MBA degree from Wellington Institute of Management. She is also certified in multiple instruments as she uses for development purpose for employees as well as for students. We request you, ma'am, to have a seat on the dais.
Our last panelist for today is Mr. Babu Bhaskar. We request you, sir, to please come on the dais. Sir is an alumnus of Tata Institute of Social Science. Sir is currently heading HR for Africa, Middle East and Southeast Asia for EPL Global. He has over 16 years of work experience in HR and has worked with companies like RPG Group, Unilever and Godrej. Thank you so much, Smita ma'am. We now ask Ms. Anju to take the event ahead.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How was your lunch? Is it good to put you to sleep?
No, ma'am.
You're going to be awake, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I think the topic is very interesting and I'm sure it will keep you awake. Plus the panel is very interesting. Thank you. Yeah? Sure. Thank you so much for inviting us over. We're really grateful to be here. Thank the university and the colleagues in the university. And of course NHRDN. Thanks to all of you for joining us today. I'm sure these are the questions that I'm representing for you, right? Yeah? Pratima helped us gather the questions from you, right? Right? I represent Aditya Birla Group and I also take care of young talent management, which is about 800 young talent that I manage. So I'm a mom to them, I'm a teacher to them, and I'm a HRBP to them. And I really know what happens in your life, and I have to at home. So let me try and represent you guys today, alright?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. So today we are going to be talking about this generation, which is the future generation. This is the generation who's talking about equality, inclusion, environment, yeah, digital, analytics. You are demanding. Yeah? You want it all and you want it fast. I see that the sense of patience that the earlier generation used to have has started to diminish. Am I right?
Yes.
And you are a lot about sustainability. Right? You're a lot about future. You know, what is it that you're going to take back to your future generation? And yet you want everything. Am I right? I need a little more vibrations coming from that side also, alright?
Yes,
Am I right or wrong?
Yes.
Right, okay, I'm assuming that's right. So if you are the ones who are going to be demanding, and I also know that you are the ones who are going to be building a future generation, you are going to be a future leadership for the organizations as well, not only for the society. Now let's debate about this topic. When we have the future generation sitting here, they have a lot of expectations from the organizations, not only from the institutes, and they have a lot of expectations from the society and us. Our generation, okay, especially the panel members who are sitting here, this generation has been bonding with the younger generation as well as the senior generation, yeah. We seem to be trying to adapt to both the situations and trying to take both the communities together. So let's discuss about this world that is changing, the world economics that is changing, the volatility in the environment, you know, where we knew that digital ways of working are going to come. It was not that only Corona has got it. Of course, COVID has made it faster. COVID pushed us to it and we did not have a choice. But we knew digital ways of working are here to come. So, when we know that change is difficult and but change needs to be seen from the lens of context. Yeah? Today we have leaders from global to Indian organizations. We have leaders from manufacturing to the banking services, the financial services, who will be able to give us a context to their life, to their industry, to their leaders. They will not only represent the HR fraternity but also the managerial community who handles the young generation, who look at what is the new way of working. Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be physical? Is it going to be digital, which is hybrid? Yeah? What ways of working works where? Let's understand from these leaders and let's throw some light to understand what should we expect. What is good to expect, because sometimes entitlement mindset comes in, right, with this generation, and it's okay. But yet, trying to understand how do I navigate, what do I expect, when to expect what. Let's try and get to that today collectively. Is it okay if I take your first names, all of you? Alright, thank you. Okay, let's start with our first question then. Yeah. My first question is to you, Neetu. How are the financial services organization like yours reacting to virtual working models? What is the current trend?
Okay, thanks Anju for the question. I hope I'm audible till the end.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thanks. So for me to give a complete picture of where we are in terms of working model, let me take you to the pre-COVID days. In the FSI industry, hybrid working, let alone 100% virtual, was not a very common phenomenon. Mainly because it's a sales organization. The assumptions were that you need to kind of have that managerial connect, that energy boost that kind of comes in with teams coming together every morning. We are also mandated by rules, the RBI or the IRDEI, which governs insurance, in terms of how organizations can function. And boom hits, COVID, and things changed. And I was personally amazed by the agility that organizations showed in terms of transitioning from a 100% work from office scenario to moving to 100% work from home scenario. I think all the functions kind of came together, the process, infrastructure, the advisories that came in, put things into place, and suddenly things kind of got streamlined and people started working. And at the core of it was really HR and technology in terms of enabling things and to make things easier for employees to process in terms of what's happening and how do you really adopt to those changes. Those of you who are pursuing HR would have heard of the Kubler-Ross model of change management, and the HR was like at the center of, shortening that curve, moving from despair, anger to acceptance, and upskilling employees to really use technology and ensure that the productivity stays. And at that point of time, everybody thought that remote working is here to stay. People suddenly had a different sense of autonomy, empowerment, because they were in charge of when to work, how to work, and it saved travel costs, time, and a lot of host of things. However, while people lived that era, a fundamental question kind of came in saying, since standard one, we've always been hearing that man is a social animal. And suddenly people started feeling amiss, realizing that when employees are coming together in offices, it's not just for work, but it's also a social infrastructure that gets built wherein people come together, brainstorm, bond, and that has an impact on your deliveries and productivity. So I think that's largely the realization that kicked in, and that's why the movement from virtual to hybrid these days. I come from insurance, and I definitely see hybrid as the current trend, Anju, to answer your question, wherein again hybrid is not a single model. Functions within the same organization is experimenting with different sub-models of hybrid, which can be, say, a sprint, wherein a team comes together for a week and then goes work from home for a larger stretch of time. Or you split the week, or you have a roster. So different experimentations happening. We all are still exploring what functions, and like Professor Vijayan said, barring the medical exigencies or parental care, hybrid is what I think will stay for industries like ours and maybe nationally.
Thank you, Neetu. I think that is very helpful because you gave a context right from where we began to where we are today. Senthil, coming to you, any thoughts on what kind of roles are moving to hybrid? What kind of roles are moving to work from home versus physical? Plus anything else that you would like to add on to the current trends?
Thanks, Anju. Hope I'm audible when using the same mic. So before I could able to answer Anju's question, how many of us want to have a work from home model once we complete the post-graduation?
Why post-graduation?
Students, work from home. Teachers also, please.
Yes.
I want to work from home only. I want to work from office only. I want to have a hybrid model. Hybrid is 50-50 in a week, huh? It is not 15 days and 15 days. Okay. Thanks, I got a perspective, so it helps us to answer and respond accordingly. So, March 2020, something happened, and March 2022, something ended. You know what has ended and what has happened. These 2 years in the entire career, if you see, your entire life, if you see, it was different for not only for this generation, which is a Gen Z, also for millennial and also for the previous generation. Am I right or not?
Yes.
I got to know that in 200 years, nothing like this has happened. Even happened, it has happened in pockets, but not as a pandemic globally. But this is unique for all of us. So, lot of things we learned only in these 2 years. And lot of things which we want to make it for years, all started happening in these 2 years. So, it is not thanks to humans, thanks to machine, it's only thanks to COVID. They pushed us to do a lot of things. So because of this, we have evolved a lot. So I'm just continuing with where my colleague Neetu said, it is going to be a hybrid model when it comes to BFSA. Why? Last 2 years, if you see, everybody was having a work from home option, but BFSA was not. Any specific reason? Why? Medical was not. Doctors were doing work from home. You know what would have happened if they were doing work from home. So we all fall under a category called as essential services, like medicine, like emergency, BFSI, banking, financial services and insurance falls under emergency services. Why? Because a lot of people come to office for claim settlement and other support, especially to extend financial support. So we are all coming to the office. But there is a set of cohort of people, as Anju asked, were doing work from home. Which kind of role they were? They were more in the corporate office based roles. They were more in the support function roles. But the people who were feet on street, the frontline colleagues who were into the sourcing role, who were regularly going and meeting, all the way our professionals, our colleagues, our friends went to the people who were impacted with COVID, serviced their claims, came back, wearing all the protection measures. So, answering salespeople, anyone who would like to have, they would not like to keep it a work from home. It is going to be a work from office or work from remote or partner location only. Non-sales, strategic and support role, they can do a hybrid model. We are not completely aligned to 100% work from home. Why? There is a significant amount of population who are struggling and putting their blood and sweat in the field. How can a set of small population can we do a work from home when we are part of the same vision? There is where all our company, not only my own company which I represent, all our company colleagues were demonstrated to do a hybrid model, and most of us came to the office. And you will not believe, there is no public transport, but we all collectively made a pooling within our each other. That is what we also could able to develop our network. So cutting it short, salespeople and customer orientation interaction people, we need to have a feet on street, daily coming to the office. There are certain roles which can be hybrid. We are not completely aligned to work from home.
Thank you, Senthil. I think that would have clarified quite a few doubts in your mind. Did it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now these are financial services. Let's also understand what happens in the manufacturing area. I represent a manufacturing organization where a maximum of my employee base sits in the plant. They have to run the plants, the machineries 24/7. If they were to sit at home, what would happen? We were sitting at home and we were still getting everything that we want by online, but they had to make it for you, right? So those were the people who were running the show behind the scenes by ensuring all the PPE kits are worn, all the protection is taken care of. So let's understand from you, Babu, how does it work in different industries like yours, in EPL Global, which is into specialty packaging manufacturing, that also has global centers, so not only India but also international. How does it work? How did it work then? How is it now?
Thanks, Anju, and thanks to thank you, Anju, and thank you, Mumbai University, LCF Management School, and NHRDN Mumbai chapter, Deliberations and Prathima, for this opportunity to represent and put forward my points. From a pandemic perspective, from a organization perspective, we've been able to get the best of it. Okay? Our cost reduced. We released a lot of infrastructure. Our power costs came down. Our travel costs came down. And I'm proud to say our productivity went up. And probably as we go forward, I will dwell into the reasons for it and how a virtual workforce management may need to have a segmented approach, and it may need to be selectively applied and based on data and not based on any kind of whims and fancies. Okay. In manufacturing, work from home has really worked for us. And work from home, when I mention, I really talk about the virtual work environment. Now, many of you might be thinking, what is EPL? And I'll take half a minute to explain. Any kind of tube which comes to your house, maybe Colgate, which is toothpaste, or cosmetic, or pharma, or any kind of food packaging, we are market leaders worldwide in that. EPL Limited, earlier we used to be known as SL Propack. Today we are EPL Limited under the banner of Blackstone. Okay? So we at EPL Limited were also an essential service, and right from day one we have been running. We have had both kind of workforces because we are a manufacturing organization. We needed to have our shop floor employees on the shop floor. The machines do not run by themselves. But at the same time, it was interesting to note that some of our factory managers who are supposed to be on the ground and manage the factory were able to do that remote for about 6 months. Okay. Now, some of the things are not evident in the first go. Okay. So, while say if I measure my productivity is the same. Okay. But what may suffer is the quality of the productivity. Okay. Whether things are being done sustainably, whether people are following the right processes, whether all the aspects which need to be looked at are being looked at properly or not, which becomes an issue. And hence, for me, probably a head of a business can never work virtually, whereas some of the middle management may be able to work virtually, or some teams may be able to work virtually. So that's the perspective that I have on it.
Thank you so much, Babu. I think that gives a different dimension to the context and the conversation that we are having today. What do you think it works in Eastern, the Great Eastern Shipping Company Limited, Savita?
Yeah, Anju, thanks. By the way, I tried to look like your generation. That's the picture I gave for the poster. But clearly, I mean, now I'm here in person. What flashes my mind the moment we got into this topic was early 2019, in one of the HR reviews that happens quarterly to the management, my head HR and I, among other points, we also tried to fit in this one last thing, saying, let's pilot thrice a week work from home in a month. I mean, we just had the courage to only say that much. The moment we finished the sentence, he said, can we just not discuss this, because this is impossible. We just can't work that way. So we are that traditional an organization. We are 75 years old as an organization, but a very, very profitable organization in our segment, doing business worldwide. So our ships basically are tankers and bulk carriers which carry cargo across the world, and we have some of the best minds in this industry working for us. However, we also have an average age of 43, and we have people who've been in 20 plus years, including me, in the organization. So you can imagine how difficult it is to even digest a concept like this. And I would say, looking back from there to here, when we had our first virtual address by the MD to the organization, he expressed this to the entire organization, that this is what I told HR, because I never believed this could work, and I'm so happy to be proved wrong. So that was our first step into virtual. And I think if it was not, by default, design, it wouldn't have happened so early. So that is how we got into, because of the pandemic, like all other companies, we got into the virtual workforce setting. And of course, the first year, I think almost all of us had worked from home completely. It was completely new. Obviously, we're not used to this kind of working. Our assets are remote. The people who work on the ships are anyways remote. So that is something we are very comfortable with. But the people sitting in the office who support these assets and support the resources have always worked from the same location. So that was a big challenge on how do we really get past this. But we not just got past it, we had some great learnings through this. So much so that we decided that this pandemic has taught us something. While we wouldn't want to go back to the complete work from home for various reasons, productivity, quality of interaction, how do you induct new employees into the organization and the culture if you're completely working from home? Especially if you're just based in India and in Mumbai, you have the luxury of having all your people work together, right? So having thought all that, we said there are some great things that's come out of this. Like, moving into a virtual workspace has helped people manage time better. We, during these 2 years, unfortunately also got into SAP implementation, which is a huge task and multiple teams are involved. So it's been a horrendous thing to be actually able to manage virtually because so many teams are coordinating all the while into it. However, we also looked at how do we make the best of it. How do we move into a situation where teams are coming together in office as well as teams are supporting from home. So that is how we continued this journey. And to that, despite we having a full-fledged office in Mumbai, we have also added WeWork to our list of offices because we wanted to see, can we extend this different way of working, also look at it a little differently. Tomorrow, even if people don't want to work from home, can there be offices which are closer to workplace? Because I think that is the biggest woe in Mumbai, right? Like, who wants to travel? Like, I stay in Malad, my office is in Worli. I don't think there's anything else I hated about my job all these years as much as the travel. But then there are other things that you love about your job and that's how you go on. But finally, it does take a toll on people's health, the time management and productivity also in many ways. So, in a nutshell, this is how we are trying to use virtual in a way to support us as an organization, and I would say we are still learning and growing with it at this point of time.
Thank you so much, Savita. I think this God-provided nanotechnology has actually helped us change our way of thinking. Forget the way of working. It is actually at the mindset, right? First thing, if you tackle the mindset, then you are able to find ways. And that's what I guess organizations are doing today. A follow-up question to you, Babu. We saw the waves changing from country to country. And therefore, the demand on health, wellness, plus the productivity losses. How did you manage the scale in different countries? How was the life and how did you manage across countries?
We as an organization, we are a global organization, as I've already mentioned. We are present in about 12 countries, and we had adopted technology way back. So our SAP implementations were done about 15, 16 years ago. All our systems, processes were in place. So in an environment where our factories were running, our corporate offices and the location offices, for all practical purposes, from a factory standpoint, were remote locations. So from our global operations perspective, it didn't matter. However, from a sales perspective, and that's the heart of any organization, right? How do you sell more and make sure your organization's machines are running and the cash flow is coming in? That's where we face challenges because the customers themselves were not open, and they were also figuring out how to work in a virtual environment. So it really impacted us on the demand generation side, And of course, on the supply side, we had some challenges, but those were not as great, right? So just to add a point which I had mentioned earlier, remote working had really worked out for us. And it is my belief that the tenure of a team decides how effective a virtual management team would be, or a virtual workforce would be. So for example, if you get a bunch of, say, management trainees, okay, index them in the system, okay, now you are remote work, so go back and work. I'm not sure how much of the culture, how much of the organization, how much of the beliefs and values, and how much of the work itself the person understands. Flip it and come to COVID. We are an organization with very high tenures. Capable people decided to be with the organization, and they went into remote. Now, contrast these two situations. Now, these guys know their job, they know their team members, their managers know the team members' weaknesses and strengths. Okay? These people have extra time on their hands, they don't have to travel, they are cutting down at least 10% of their costs, and they are able to spend, say, 2 hours more on the job. For me, if I were to recommend virtual working for a team, and I would say even in an organization, you would have subcultures and sub-teams with smaller tenures and larger tenures. Any organization or any team which has a larger tenure of employees, and those employees have worked together, it can be a marvelous solution as per me.
Thank you. I think that makes you reflective. No? Large organization, not only the diversity of geographies, there's diversity of age groups, there's diversity of thinking, and therefore the culture. Picking from culture, Senthil, coming to you, we spoke about managers, we spoke about age groups, we spoke about digital mindset. In your organization, how do you maintain an organization-wide culture in a virtual setup? What do you think could help us improve daily communication or trust? It starts with trust, yeah, between the manager and the team members. Starts from there. While the organization can do whatever they want to do, if the manager doesn't trust the employee and vice versa, things can break down. So how do you manage something like this? You know, maintaining culture, maintaining trust within the organization in a virtual setup, where the young generation wants to work from home, the elder generation wants to come to office, there is some generation who wants to be hybrid. How do you still do that?
All three generations together.
Yeah.
Okay. A very relevant question, but multifolds to answer this. We as an organization at HDFC Life believe in two-prong approach. One, follow the traditions because that's your fundamental and roots, and get aligned to the new age practices. So follow the traditions means it's very simple. Whatever the fundamentals you've learned pre-COVID, the parvarish, good habits, all the basics, fundamentals remain the same only. COVID has not changed that. So traditional things we will not miss. Taking a learning from what Babu said, if we lose employees quickly, we will not able to implement the best practices. So we have got one of the highest vintage employees, and that cohort only helped us to adopt the new age practices. Now, how did we do? We at times have to learn from the current learnings. As a parent, if I'm going to listen to my mom and dad, 110% I'm not going to listen to all the things they say. Am I right? We also have brought up like this, you also guys. So there need to be something new coming from some other side to my ears. If something new perspective, something different coming, then I unconsciously tend to listen, then consciously that will attract me, and then I'll consciously tend to listen. So that is where strategic partnership comes in place. So something we did on our own, something we consciously don't want to do on our own. Like classic example, NHRD. NHRD is a central unit which is building relationship between the corporates. So I do not know Anju, Neetu, Babu, Savita. But thanks to NHRD, they are the strategic partner to build relationship communities within the corporate. Now one step ahead, Your Alkesh Modi at University of Mumbai utilized them smartly. How come? Instead of going to 5 different corporate, what they smartly did? They went to NHRD. इसमें crux कौन है? So they found Mr. Vijayan Pankajashin sir and Pratima that you get the job for us. We want to give some news perspective to our own people. So this strategic perspective brought us here. The same thing is happening in the current industry also. Inox, PVR. No companies, no Bollywood, Hollywood is going individually to theatres the way it has happened 5-10 years before. They just tied up with Carnival, Inox, PVR. So these are all strategic partners to help you get your things done. Same thing we do with LinkedIn, Facebook. Instead of we doing a job and going door to door, we have a strategic partnership. So what is this? It is leveraging on strength. So that is what Anju we did. We adopted some strategic partners who are very good. We are just moderate or we are good in certain areas, but there are people who are very good in certain domain, like ICAS India. ICAS India is an institute which do counseling for people. So we saw a lot of suicide rates during COVID, lot of depression during COVID. People lost loved ones during COVID. And our employee at that time was 24K, now it is 33K because of acquisition we recently made. We were suffering like anything. Because the person was a bread and butter for the family, they lost the bread and butter for the family, the person who cooks. What to do? We can't pressurize them. So we do not know how to handle this situation. We tied up with ICAS India. We did a wellness campaign across the country, a free counseling, where any family member can discuss about any of the depression free of the cost for employee and their dependents. And thank God, our 60% of the employee have cut short their leave and came back to work in a very healthy mindset. Which means during the tough period, it worked well. And we found people are not doing really very well on the mental wellness piece. So we are not mental wellness expert. What we did, we tied up with certain psychiatric counselors, institutes, and we asked them to do some systematic and systemic sessions consistently. We saw absent in the digital. As sir said, a lot of will switch on the video and will switch off the video, and whatever we do, we don't know. So same thing happened to us. But over the period of the time, morning 7 a.m. wellness session, we saw a good amount of the crowd crossing, started with 2 people and went ahead up to 560 plus people at any point of time. Similarly, there are many things which you want to communicate. We are not able to communicate effectively and efficiently. We acquired a strategic communication partner. We included them for designing innovative communication mailers, WhatsApp designers, and also voice-based bots. So when you are not good at something, no need to worry. Find someone who is very good in those things like NHRDN. So that's how we did, Anju. We found some strategic partners, and that's how our problems are addressed. Good.
Very interesting. So there is a lot of help available when you ask for help, is what I hear. Yeah? And that's what you tried. And you tried different things for different kind of help that people wanted, and therefore you were available to them. Anyone wants to add on to what Central just said? Opening it up to the panels.
So, probably the way we learned remote working should not become the benchmark in terms of thinking about virtual working. Mm-hmm. While it started with COVID and gloom and doom actually, and that escalated in the second wave where we continued to work. However, that was forced on us. Now that we have realized the benefits, some of us go to office. I go to office every day. My office has a 3-day working policy. Managers and the teams can choose when they want to come. If the manager decides that a particular job is supposed to be done from office, that is supposed to be done from office. So, right now, it is taken in the right spirit. Earlier it was not a choice. Today it is a choice. And hence, while the emphasis should be on mental well-being to a very large extent, but the situation may not be as gloomy as it was before, when Sendil and HDFC team had to take a lot of effort to take care of the well-being of the person. That's one perspective.
So times are changing and therefore our stance has to change. Yeah? And having said that, the manager, if the manager is empowered and the manager, as long as the manager is getting the work done, in that particular moment, if you allow the manager to take a choice, to make a decision, I think that's good enough. That's what you're saying. And over a period of time, maybe we change based on the role and the requirement of the job. That's what I heard you saying.
People are choosing to come to office and people are choosing to work from home. So once it is a choice, it doesn't become as overpowering and as difficult for you.
Okay.
Also, I have seen people who have said they travel 2 hours, but they want to come to office every day because they don't have space at home. They don't want to work from home. Even if they have space at home, there are kids running around, there is probably a noisy environment. So, from a virtual working perspective, making it mandatory is not something which will go very well with a lot of people. Okay? But once it is a choice, and there is some sort of method in the madness, right? So we have actually reduced our overall workspace. Okay? And we have said that, okay, 3 days working is what we are on. We have not made any rosters and anything, but broadly we said that teams can choose to come. Right? So I think we'll evolve, but in a particular direction which the organization is asking us for.
Very interesting. Thank you. That helps. I'm sure all of you are able to relate to it, why you were switching off the cameras when you were in a virtual mode. Someone was crying, someone is yelling, and you don't want to keep the camera on. But right now the cameras are not on, but not on a virtual mode, but on a physical mode. And I see a lot of WhatsApp happening and heads down. I hope that's not happening behind too much. Your panel members are right here. If it's resonating with you, keep your questions handy. Make notes. We'll open up the session for some questions towards the end. So while I may not open it up right now, because we are in a flow of discussion, but I will open up later. So make notes of those questions so that you don't miss it out. Plus there's a lot of juice coming from the leaders here. A lot of content coming from the leaders, their learning, their perspective, different industries. Make a note because this will help you in the future when you hit the job market. I'm sure some of you will hit the job market soon, some of you will hit the job market later. Yeah? But keep making notes. So, yeah, please.
Yeah, so one of the things, a myth that did break for us was when it was completely work from home, there was this entire discussion among senior management and the organization that people will not want to come back to work. They will want to work from home only. Because see, what feeds in the news, which may be true for some industry organizations, is what is trending and everybody is talking about. But when we open the hybrid work, though we put some processes and policies in place that 2 days work from home, 3 days work from office, and team A, team B, you can work out the flexibility with your manager. And now we also have WeWork, which is close to at least 60% of the organization. We have in Western, Central and Navi Mumbai. Still, it is people's own need to want to come at least 2 days in a week. On an average we are seeing that, where they want to connect, they want to be visible, they want to understand what's happening in the organization. So the same applies to you all as students. While one may have a choice to sit at home and attend the class, but when you are in the classroom with the group of friends and with your faculty, there is a different energy, the conversation is alive, right? The same thing happens in organization. Finally, you are not there just to punch data or mark your attendance or do a particular set of work. You are there to create an impact for yourself and the people around you. And the ones who understand that early in life, that it is not just, I will use flexibility to my advantage, but not so much to my advantage that someday somebody pulls me up for this flexibility. So that is something each one has to finally carry within ourselves. Like, I mean, having an WeWork office in Goregaon or working from home for me is like the easiest thing to do. But as an HR person, if you're not in the organization at least 2 to 3 times a week, you're missing out on a lot of unsaid things that's happening. You know? And especially early on in career, all the more, like what Babu also mentioned, all the more needed that you need to be around in the place to get a feel of what is this place all about, you know, how do these people work, how do they connect. And that may be true not just for management trainees, but a lot of senior people have changed jobs during the pandemic, you know, getting used to an altogether new environment, organization. You may be stalwart in your business, but culture is a totally different animal, you know, you only have to be there to understand that. So managing that is very, very important, not just from an organization point of view, but each of us as individuals also. That onus does lie on us as well. That's all.
It's your own, self that you bring in to say, what is it that I want to do? They're doing the right thing at the right time, and not just going by the flexibility that is being provided to you by the company, where the company may give you that flexibility, but actually doing the right thing is what you are saying. I also, kind of echo what you're saying, because when you are on a call, for example, on a technology call, and the call ends, the conversation ends. There is no bonding. Huh? Whereas when you are in the office, there is bonding pre the meeting, post the meeting, there's getting to know, there's networking. Just those 2-minute conversation actually helps you bridge the gap between the two individuals. Next time when you're connecting with the individual knows you. Not because you were on a call, but you actually connected one-to-one. And that personal connect, I sense missing in the virtual mode. Yeah? Okay, great. Thank you for that, Sarita. Neither, moving to you, what technologies can be used to help manage virtual employees easily? While, we know of quite a few technologies, is there something that you'd like to throw light on?
So in 2022, we are discussing virtual tools for engagement, probably in industries which are more traditional like ours. However, more evolved industries, say like IT, ITES, had these virtual management tools maybe a decade and a half ago itself. My erstwhile organization, INFI, so I was a business HR for 1,000 plus employee group, and they were not co-located. We had people across geographies who were working on similar projects, and even at that point of time, there were tools and technologies available. You might have heard of InfiBubble or Yammer or Link, multiple tools there to kind of get employees together, not just on professional platforms, but also interest groups, technology groups, and many others. So that's always been there. But I think the uptake has kind of increased now. Probably new players are there in the market who kind of suit some of the gaps that the earlier players didn't have, and that we have been able to leverage. And today there is like a plethora of tools and technologies available. In fact, even from the pre-onboarding state, wherein, I mean, I'm not even saying that you are managing your employees virtually after they come in. From the day probably you roll out the offer letter, I think virtual management starts then. There are so many applications available today to kind of connect with those people, to talk about your values, your industry, your philosophies, and engage them, which also is an indicator of their probability to join. So I think we are really using these technology to kind of understand and get closer to employees in absence of a daily connect. Now if I have to talk about Kotak Life specifically, we have multiple tools available right from pre-onboarding till exit to kind of understand what is the mood of people, how are they perceiving the organization. We spoke a lot about mental health, so pulse surveys to understand those phases in the month or the quarter when the stress is the highest, and all this real-time feedback kind of helps in designing interventions, coming to employees at the right time. and also helping in managing the retention and engagement, because employees know that their voices are getting heard real time with the help of technology as an enabler. If I talk about new joiners, and Babu spoke about how, if it's a new team, then their ability to kind of hold on together and exhibit those values can kind of, become a challenge. However, there are tools which kind of helps you do that. We have, partners who kind of map an employee's journey for the first 180 days to see what are those stages where we see, dips in engagement, what are those red flags, and all this is completely anonymous. I mean, it's not internally driven so that, employee feels the comfort that the voice wouldn't be held against that person. But at the same time, create those mechanisms so that we are able to make use of that real-time data and give them the support that they need. There are tools available in learning, engagement, performance management. I mean, the list is long. All I'm trying to say is, while COVID kind of forced this upon us, it increased the uptake and usage, but these tools existed and it's just getting sharper by the day.
Very interesting. Yeah? We only thought tools were to get into calls, but we are actually talking about tools for various things, not only to up the productivity, but actually engage different people, understand the pulse of the organization, what do you feel, how do you manage your mental health, and a lot of that. Great, and there comes the challenge. Yeah, with a lot of virtual workforce moving into virtual, you don't know what they're doing. Yeah, like you're behind the camera, people are actually moonlighting. Oh my God, how do you manage that? Yeah, Savita, why don't you throw some light on that?
How many of you all follow Ayush Shraddha? Do you all watch her videos? Yeah. So, in fact, the Diwali edition had the special, Diwali lighting, moon lighting, which is really, really topical, and she's always superb with that. Yeah. So, yeah, that was on a lighter note, but it is a very serious topic. Even an organization, so for us, say 2,000 employees are sailing on the ship. They are anyways virtual in that sense, right? And in some sense, we can call them moonlighting, which is a known fact. That is, these are contractual employments. So they come as master mariners, chief engineers, they sail with you for 6 months. Typically, they will take 2-3 months break and then they'll join you back. But if they have not joined you again in 3 more months, they maybe would have gone somewhere else, sailed, and then decide whether they want to come back to you or not. So, in our industry, for a long time, calculating attrition is a very big challenge, especially for the floating staff. Are they really yours or not? You really don't know. So, we had somebody who helped us with a very interesting phenomena called, let's look at quasi-attrition. How quickly did these people come back to you? Where was the threshold, and were you able to match that or not? But that was acceptable because that's part of the industry. But the same is not acceptable in office, right? I mean, it's like a regular work environment, like whether it's HDFC or whichever, Kotak, whichever, similar. Great Eastern is similar when it comes to office. But we are just 300 employees. One can always think, is it so relevant? Do we need to really worry about moonlighting? Like all these big organizations, we know what happened with Wipro and so many others are talking about it. But if you look at it, collaboration and trust or integrity, whatever you call it, is the centerpiece. It's like the heart of virtual working. Everything is fine as long as that doesn't start crumbling down. So then it does not matter whether 300 people did that in an organization or 30 people did that in an organization. The moment that happens, suddenly this whole facility, employee, pro-employee, do it for the employees, all that is going to crumble down. So as HR, while we are the ones who promoted and supported virtual working, we also have to play the devil's advocate. Because you simply need to be fair from both perspectives. As an organization and as a team, we have never shied away from talking about how do we really know that everybody is actually working when they are saying they are working? It is a true conversation, right? It happens even in the campus. Whether after 3 calls, if a particular person doesn't switch on the video, you know that wo idhar nahi baitha hai. He is either watching a Netflix or doing something. And similar conversations happen in organizations also. So we have used our size to our advantage. That is, 300 employees is not very big to manage from a point of view of knowing where they are. First of all, we did put some rules around, physical presence in Mumbai. Though you can work virtually, you have to be located out of Mumbai only, and then some protocols around, if you had to, any family emergency, need to go to hometown. So there is a process you need to inform and all that. Despite that, through grapevine, things don't stay, right? People do come to know what's happening, We have a monthly tracker wherein we connect with all the functional heads. Because remember, HR or IT and all is the central point. But finally, the head of the departments, the functional heads, the core heads for any team, they are the ones who are connecting with their team on a regular basis. So we ran workshops for them on, because the leaders are also made of different kinds, right? Some who delegate for the week and then check back after a week. Some who are used to too many meetings during the day. Some who's all the while on the WhatsApp checking on Subhe bola tha wo dopahr ko hua ki nahi. So, all kinds of leaders are around and all kinds of subordinates are also around. So we brought them to a common platform saying some of the desirable things, right from holding a daily meeting, knowing the status at the end of the week, what's happened in each person's work itself, will keep a basic check in place. Every quarter, we also run productivity surveys which go to the functional head with details of all the employees who are a part of that team, trying to understand how has their productivity been, how has their engagement been, are there any concerns? And concerns not just from work point of view, do they struggle with some concerns which we need to step into? It could be technology, it could be, as Senthil mentioned, mental wellness, whatever it is, but your HOD is like the touch point to that micro team with whom he is working. However, having said that, now that we are in a phase where we are thinking virtual is going to be long term and we want to adopt it somewhere as a part of our culture, we also don't want to compromise on productivity and accountability. So we are actually looking at tools like, there is a company called ProHands, for example, which is a productivity tool. It sits on the the machine of the employees. It will give you some productivity data. We are openly debating what will this do to the morale of people. Will they feel good about it? Will they feel that they are being monitored? So those kind of discussions are on. But then we have decided that unless we don't, it cannot be a complete give route. It has to be somewhere balanced, and we want to openly put that forward, that to ensure that this check and balance is there, we should, keep processes which will help us monitor that by and large things are fine. And it's not that there is only a set of people who are burning the midnight oil and a set who are enjoying at their expense. So those are things we don't want to encourage. And finally, along with that, we did in fact a lot of code of conduct sessions also virtually during this period. Mainly because what happens is, when you're away, many a times a lot of things become blurry, Ki, theek hai, chalta hai, this is okay, that is okay. And one of those areas in the code of conduct is moonlighting also in many ways. You are, right from the appointment letter to any organization which all of you are going to sign, you are going to commit that you are going to hold in complete faith and not share things that are private to that organization to others. You are not going to commit your time to other organizations, other than contracts where it is specified that you can very much do. So we are also debating that maybe this permanent workforce may not be the permanent nature for the future. What if moonlighting tomorrow is a way in which work will be done? So we are talking about it, that What if there are people, but we want to ensure that it is clean. It's not something that's happening behind the scene. So do we have project-based roles where people come and work for you only for that projects while you're working with others also? If it is acceptable to us, we will definitely open our eyes to those processes as well. So this is how we are trying to look at this whole thing. But finally, because we are addressing students, I just want to leave on this topic just one sentence. You are what you are when nobody is looking at you. And that is a fact. When not being monitored, when that scale or that danda not on you, what are you as a person? What is it? See, each of us have our dark side. Finally, each of us have that nudge and that urge to want to do something mischievous, not abiding to the system. But are you keeping yourself in check or not? Finally, I think the whole thing breaks down to that. And as an organization is going to put policies, processes, checks. But even without that, as an individual, how accountable you hold yourself, and are you able to depict that at all points of time? Like a simple thing in our team, we all are on WhatsApp, it's a small team. It's not just we who inform our manager if for an hour we need to go for something. Our head HR also says I'm logging off at 5 today because I have some. It's not that anybody is checking. It's that discipline and that connect that you have, that you need to be truthful to it, to your organization, your team with whom you are working, and finally it all comes down to that. That's what I would say.
I think what I pick, if I were a student, I would say, look at the contractual obligation that you sign, because that matters. Based on the role that the organization has offered to you, based on the agreement that you have tied up, right? 1. 2, of course, it's you. Okay, your karma, integrity, and authentic leadership. You know, if you are authentic to your job, you will not do the wrong thing. And therefore, picking from there, Neetu, today the world has changed, the workforce.
The fancy term moonlighting in a lighter way, I think it's all part of our DNA, right? Most of us would have chosen to not attend classes and go to coaching classes and hobby classes. Anybody, I mean, how many of us have done that? I'm guilty of that. The bare minimum campus ka attendance rakha and baki learn from professors outside. So I think it's something which is prevalent in terms of wanting to do that multi thing, do something extra. I think generation kind of has seen that, and that's probably something which kida hai that continues, and when people kind of come to corporate, that kind of showed up. So now I'm not going to talk about as a representative of Kotak Life, because as an organization we may have a particular stand, we have a stand. But here more, talking about what I personally feel about the whole thing of moonlighting is that it's not something new or something that didn't exist. We know of so many entrepreneurs. I mean, something which is very there in the common places. The founders of Flipkart thought about that and worked on it while they were still employees of Amazon. So I think there are innumerable examples of moonlighting that has happened. However, like Savita said, the heart of the problem is conflict of interest. Are you doing two pieces of work, working with two organizations, which is bringing in an inherent conflict of interest? Because what we need to realize is when you are part of an organization, you are representing that organization in terms of client confidentiality, in terms of what data is permissible to go out, not go out. And even if you as a person makes that one mistake, the entire organization's reputation goes for a toss. So that is the ownership or accountability you have to think. And hence when you are looking at moonlighting, ensure that A, your managers, your leaders are kept informed, and B, there is no conflict of interest. Now, like Professor Vijayan spoke about how organizations like Swiggy and Tech Mahindra are calling out saying we are okay with moonlighting with certain riders, say either for some days, smaller stints, as far as it's not impacting your productivity. So all those riders are coming. because even corporates are understanding that it's better to legalize it or put some conditions and guidelines around it, because probably moonlighting is going to happen till the time virtual, hybrid and all of those things are going to be around, and which we think will be the case for foreseeable future. However, talking about the gig economy that Anju touched upon, what organizations might want to do is look at ethical moonlighting, wherein can you create those spaces within the organization for employees to hone alternate interest areas. So for example, you might be from finance function, a CA, but with an interest in say content writing or maybe doing something else. So internally, if you are able to create that marketplace, give employees those opportunity to pick up those projects, compensate them for that, at the same time ensuring that your other scheme of productivity kind of stays. I think that is one way in which organizations can look at. In terms of gig economy, now the recent data says that 1/3 of world's working population is gig, and this is very prevalent in US, going to spread across the world. So gig economy is here to stay. So can organizations start defining what roles are acceptable in a gig format and what roles are acceptable in a permanent format, and make it clear at the time of employment contracts itself, saying you are aligned for this kind of roles and you are allowed to work for other organizations, and in this kind of a scenario you are not. And there, right at the beginning, the employee is clear that what is he or she getting into, and that makes it clean for everybody. So I think that's my 2 cents on moonlight.
I think that really helps and kind of demystifies some of the myths that people may have with regards to moonlighting. Babu, do you want to add some points on moonlighting? Just throwing the cookie at you. To say, if at all someone is taking an alternate workforce, employment, okay, even if the person is a freelancer, what is okay and what is not okay?
It's a question foreign to our industry in manufacturing. Okay. So while we have a small IT department, 40 to 50 people, there it might be an issue. But under the various laws which are prevalent, my shop floor employees cannot go and work elsewhere. Right? So that really takes me on. Majority of our people are either finance or HR, not really a big market on freelancer to do it. It is my strong belief that an IT problem of moonlighting has been made a big issue as if it affects the entire industry. I do not believe so. It is an IT industry specific issue. I'm sure that HDFC Life sales guy would not be able to go and sell Kotak sales, right? It's probably very difficult, or it may be happening also, I do not know. But from a manufacturing perspective, I do not think moonlighting is that big an issue. And even if it is an issue, somebody was mentioning, somebody shares trades in shares. Is it moonlighting? Okay. Somebody say goes and does work in an NGO after that. Okay. And he's probably paid a non-honorarium. Is it moonlighting? Say Vijayan sir invited me to Rajagiri Business School for doing an activity. Is it moonlighting? Right? So there are some aspects of it which are not applicable. But at the same time, we have to understand why organizations want you to work with them and only them. Two aspects to it. One, where the physical work is involved. Your physical work, it has been proven that if it goes beyond 10 hours and regularly over a period of time, you are prone to safety incidents and accidents, and your health is going to deteriorate. That is why over a period of 100, 200 years of industrial revolution or the industrial growth, we have come to a number of 8 hours, okay, where it is safe to work. In US it is 11 hours they are allowed to work, and they have a different system, but at least for us. Okay. Second, I would say some of the information which is proprietary. Okay. So in our company, we call our R&D department creativity and innovation. These are people who are experts in polymer science, in plastics, in barrier properties of plastics. I do not want those people to be doing moonlighting in any way. they may not be doing it. But the whole point is, the argument has to have a particular logical base, which may be true for IT industry, but even in IT industry, you would have your employees who are an equivalent of a shop floor employee who are the coders. Are they the thinkers? Because the intellectual property of the company would be the thing that you would want to protect. Okay? And being from the same industry, one day a particular owner of a company says, the MD or CF says moonlighting is okay. Another day a statement comes, no, it is not okay, and then a debate starts. I think, I don't have a specific point of view, but from an industry applicability perspective, I think it is blown out of proportion in the entire economy.
Thank you. I think that that also helps, but that also, I'm sure has more questions in your mind. Let's try and see if Senthil can give a different point of view. Senthil, Babu was talking about, say specialists, organizations not being okay with specialists going and working, doing the same job in a different organization. So that means I'm not okay with conflict of interest. I'm not okay with sharing of information. Say for example, a salesperson who's handling premier high-profile clients here in my organization. I'm not going to be okay with the same person going and doing a part-time job with another organization in the same role. The person may be going and becoming a waiter, going and doing something else, doing hobby-related jobs. It's okay. But this I may not be okay, and I'm guessing things are not clear today. Over a period of time, they'll be clearer. But any thoughts or any do's and don'ts to this audience today, and that could be our last question today before we could open it up for the Q&A. Any do's and don'ts to our population here on one, virtual working, and two, gig working?
Most of the contents have been covered. I'm just looking what to cover because there are enough discussions happening. But just specifically addressing this particular thing, this is one of the things which is out of proportion, which is blown up, as Babu also said. In BFSI, moonlighting, hardly there is a scope. Where there is a scope for some of the thinkers, for example, those who are working on the content, intellectual property, or those who are in the are having some of the spouses working as a freelancer. But this guy is a full-time. So basis trust, they share something, but the trust should live within the home only. If it is living within the home, that is fine. If it is leaving out of the home, that is a problem. So there is where such concerns will come up. But otherwise, if you see do's and don'ts, a lot of colleagues have highlighted. There is something called code of conduct. There is something called disclosures. There are something called undertakings. None of us take it seriously. Recently I'm taking about one of my company only. One of my very senior colleague, my own years of experience with family, with children, reputed in the industry, in a different geography, we have to take a stern call and action. Why? There was something which was against the code of conduct practices. It's something he did out of something in, after office hours without knowing this is unethical. So when in doubt, what we should ask? We should check. We should ask. This gentleman did it, and he accepted it. But is that right? I did a mistake. I accept it. Now let me move on. Is it a right for the organization to move on?
Any thoughts?
Any thoughts? I'm just asking you. You also the one of the panelists. We have to learn from you.
Any thoughts?
मैंने गलती कर दिया, accept कर रहा हूँ. आपने पूछा मैंने accept किया. पहले नहीं accept किया. But let me move on. You know my background, and Senthil, you are my friend. You will not do it. Who will do it? Hope you understand. And he is asking me to be in his shoes. If you are in my shoes, what you will do? Think of. Now, what is the call we should take? We should let him move on, or what should we do? एक warning देके छोड़ दें.
Ideally, being the HR professional, we do believe in empathy and sympathy. If you can give him second chance, it's better. Despite of knowing his background, he is accepting his mistakes. That's a spirit, no?
Perspective one. Any other thing? I just gathered 3 perspectives. Max.
Come on, people. I hope the lunch is not too heavy.
Don't make me specific. I'm virtual mode में नाम बुला के बोलते हैं. Last row, pink lady. बुलाना नहीं चाहता, but if you want to answer, you can. Anyone want to have a different perspective, please come.
Shouldn't the gravity and situation be taken into consideration?
Okay. Consideration ले लिया. Call क्या लेना? I want to have your opinion on the call to be taken.
As in how bad is the situation?
It's a company reputation as a risk.
But nowadays the companies, they are facing lots of problems related to employee attrition. It's better to retain the employee.
Very good perspective. 15 लोग ऐसे कर रहे हैं उस ब्रांच में, 15 ही ऐसे लोग हैं, 15 को रिटेन करो, इनको छोड़ दिया तो बाकी लोग नहीं मिलेंगे. नीतू की कंपनी से मैं लूंगा, मेरी कंपनी से नीतू लेगी.
Now because see, if I talk about like for any HR person, it's a challenge for them to getting right people for the right place. So it's better you can retain him and you can give him warning. Next time if you do such a kind of things, then we will terminate you.
Okay. दिल्ली निर्भया केस हमको मालूम है डिसीजन क्या हुआ था? How many of your favor towards a decision? तो डिसीजन क्या तो पहले सोचना पड़ेगा. Were the culprits punished or not? They punished. They got punished. Lifetime hand till death हुआ था ना? How many of you are aligned to this decision? The rapists were punished. Okay. And how many say that it is not right decision? Human angle, human aspiration. Okay, ठीक है. और ये दोनों में हाथ नहीं उठा रहे, उसको मैं क्या समझूं? मोटा. Coming back, वो larger level Supreme Court का decision है, we can't rethink. According to me personally, I think it was right. Coming back, we have to take a stern call. We have to be disassociated with the company. Now, why? That's a deliberate call. This leaves impression on the others. When it comes to some tough situation, how are you going to take a call? That shows the spirit of the company, values of the company. मुझे लिख के लिखा था ना, एंट्रीज में भी देखा अल्केश मोदी का वैल्यूज. आई वाज इंस्पायर्ड आफ्टर रीडिंग बिकॉज एचडीएफसी लाइफ वैल्यूज और हमारा वैल्यूज थोड़ा सा अलाइन हो रहा था. बट इट इज जस्ट इन बोर्ड और इन एक्शन ऑल्सो. एक्शन तो 365 डेज 24 आवर्स हो नहीं सकता, तो कभी कभी एक्शन करना पड़ेगा. वो कभी कभी आता है, तब आपको डेमोन्स्ट्रेट करना पड़ेगा. That is what you show you are living up to the values. So we have disassociated themselves, put it in the repository, and we will not spoil the career. One thing is we have asked them to leave without any noise, and we have not disclosed this with anybody else. Okay, he is going to other company. Now ref check is coming. Now ref check is coming. What should I do as a professional, as a well-wisher or friend, whatever it may be? This side, left side, leftist.
Yeah, feedback to the reference check.
He joined the other company. I was HR. Coming as a ref check. What should I do? We do.
There's no right or wrong answer. Just an answer is enough. Come on, there are point of views. He's not asking you to sit on a Supreme Court judge panel.
And nothing is right or wrong. It's your perspective. Sir, आप भी कैमरा में बता सकते हैं. Because मेरे को कहीं से आंसर नहीं मिल रहा. The last I will choose is Vijay sir, and he will take lead of a session. Any perspective is okay. What should we do? Neutral. मुझे मालूम नहीं, किसी और से चेक कर लीजिएगा. Okay.
So did he actually inform you before giving your
No.
mobile number as reference?
नहीं वो पूछते नहीं, हम हमारा नेटवर्क है यार. हमको नेटवर्क से पता चल जाता है. लिंक्डइन का प्रोफाइल में कौन सी कंपनी में काम किया, कॉन्टैक्ट लिस्ट में जा रहा है. नहीं, तू मेरे से पूछ रही है.
He was a good employee, he performed well. However, we had this issue.
Okay. Anybody else?
But why to talk about the nation unless it is being asked?
अच्छा, okay, ठीक है, okay.
You're only getting answers from the first few benches, huh?
Yes.
I can sense that.
Yeah, the younger generation can give their perspective. What should happen?
What should we do? If you are in my position, what you would have done? You don't know.
We will probably answer if they are in their position. What
आपकी position क्या है?
Virtual mode and physical mode is the same, except the faces are here.
So he is partially correct. We have to highlight a good things about also a person. Na? That is how professionalism is. There are some good practices, there are some good achievements. But having said that, there was something which I can't disclose you on a disciplinary piece. We have to take a call, and hence he got dissociated. What is that? Can you tell me? I cannot tell. Because that is where integrity comes into place. If I start blowing up about what is done, then I am not following the code of conduct. Considering individual respect is something which is very important, and keeping certain things secret is also very important. So all these things evolving and revolving around two things. One is trust. Trust to be gained, earned, or it is to be offered. Earned, gained. It is not offered. मेरे को कोई trust नहीं करता. मेरे को कोई trust नहीं करता. मैं दुनिया भर जाके बोलते रह रहा हूँ. But what is that you have learned to earn that? So this is all two-way approach. I'll do all these things through action. That's how I'll earn. So this is one thing, trust. Second is empathy. What we demonstrated with this person is empathy. We understood the situation. We settled all his arrears. We gave him full and final settlement. We also gave a termination letter with love and affection, without any bias and fight and all. Because tomorrow he goes to legal. Who will face the problem? HR. HR में कौन? I have to come now. So I have to invest a lot of money. So there is where you have to empathize with them and have a very aligned dissociation. So these are two things which comes to moonlighting or any of the other practices. But one thing which is very important is, as Gen Z, when you're going to get into a corporate, please do have some sense of data. Don't go by verbal, don't go by what you hear, don't go by whatever you read in Facebook and LinkedIn. Go by certain data. Data-driven approach will make you a good and a long-term withstanding professional. So that is something which I would like to close with the response which I have to share for the Anju's query. I hope it clarified, otherwise I have to come back to you to seek responses.
But sir, उसके बाद में वो कंपनी ने उसको लिया रेप चेक करने के बाद
इंडिया में कोई भी टर्मिनेटेड एम्प्लॉय कहीं भी जाके ज्वाइन हो जाता है. That is a trend and data. May not be of a similar brand, may be of a different brand, but after a couple of years they again come back. They also realize, no? So we also corporate understand. 4 साल पहले परफॉर्मेंस की वजह से टर्मिनेट हुआ था, हमको मालूम था. अभी उसको रिहायर नहीं कर सकते because life gives lot of opportunity to change. So that we respect as a corporate, and we do take a call and rehire. But not with us, he cannot come back. But we do not spoil the career in other companies. But does that mean we have not disclosed the apt information? We have disclosed it. If it asks for. Will I voluntarily go and ask, say, no, isko mat karo, I got to know he's been interviewed. Will I voluntarily go and say? I will not say. So there is where we need to have a trust and empathy in place, in family also, in office also, to ensure we first live like a human and then as a professional.
And we also assume that the person has learned something from the mistake, and it's an opportunity for the individual to learn, saying, when in doubt, let me go and ask. Yeah? And that is what I believe you are saying, that when in doubt, go and ask. Yeah? Okay, that is about moonlighting. Coming back to virtual, I think we all learned about different ways of working. Hybrid, work from home, and vacations also, work from office also. Vacations are allowed on certain in certain roles. Full office in certain roles. Full work from home, maybe nearby location, is another option. And hybrid, of course, is another option. What I heard from them is it depends on the role. Yeah. So you will need to also empathize with the organization. Every time your demand cannot match to the organization's demand, there has to be a jugal bandi. Your need, organization's need, and that's where productivity happens. Well, great. I think that is that brings us to the end of this session. But now I would like to open up for questions. Opening to the audience for questions. Of course, I try to represent all the questions that came to us right in advance. I try to modify them with my knowledge, but I'm sure these thoughts provoke some other questions in your mind. So don't stop yourself. Go ahead. You may want to point it to all of us, or you may want to point it to a particular panel member who should answer.
See, if you don't start asking questions, and then we'll start asking you all.
Okay. If anyone has a question, just raise your hand and I think the mic will come to you. Okay, we have a question here.
Good evening everyone, I'm Shweta Visale from NHRDN. I have 3 questions. So my first question is, what is the definition of a permanent employee in terms of security, not in terms of benefit? Like in government job, you know, whatever happens, my job is safe. So I would like to know from your perspective, like, how do you define permanent employee?
Go ahead, whoever wants to answer.
There is no permanent employee. So for all practical purposes, there is no permanent employment. Even an employment which may last a lifetime has a 3-month notice period of termination. Okay. Even that employment will come to an end at the age of your retirement. Some companies it is 58, some is 60, in some very highly physically demanding industries it may be very less. Say an army Jawan retires at what age? Does anybody know? 35. Some people start their corporate careers in 35. Doctors are studying till 35, doing their MD and double MD and triple MD. So what I'm trying to say is there is a notion of permanent employment which may not necessarily be the case. What is permanent is capability. What is permanent is experience. What is permanent is relationship. What is permanent are the skills that you develop. What is permanent are the various systems that you learn, SAP or Oracle or any of the systems that you learn. Those are things which are permanent. Jobs are not permanent anymore. Those were permanent in the age of not even your parents, it's probably our parents. That's when it was permanent. By the time your parents were there, it was probably not as permanent, right? You have a situation where teachers are on contract. Just to give a context, right? You have 10 lakh jobs which are vacant, and you have 20 lakh people who are on contract who are working. Okay? In the government, I'm not saying anywhere else, in the central government. In overall government, you have 60 lakh jobs which are vacant and probably 1 crore people working on contract. So there is nothing permanent as such. Even in government, it is not. And the young generation should definitely not have that expectation. The point of view should be, how can I make myself capable enough, not only in a particular industry, not only in a particular area of work, but broadly looking at what are the things that I can do to become the best in what I do, and my employability is there lifelong. My employment is there, you are putting the onus on the company to give you employment. When you say my employability should be lifelong, you are putting the onus on yourself to create or to make yourself employable, that people will come to you. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Just wanting to add on, if I can, we believe the employee is the MD of his or her own career, and we have concepts called careerability. Adding on to exactly what he's saying, or rather echoing, if you up your ability, your career will happen. In the given dynamics of the world economics, there's so much of volatility. We started with that. Some industries have gone down, some industries have come up. Suddenly you've seen a change. In that scenario, how are you going to upskill and reskill yourself to be employable? Okay, that is the thought that should be in your mind, rather than thinking about permanent employment, this, that. There are many opportunities, and job losses are evident. Companies can try whatever they can, and no organization likes to hire and fire. It's a difficult one. Okay, the worst thing that an HR professional would want to do is fire. Hiring is easy. Okay, but if organization is trying their best, the least we can do is keep ourselves employable, right? So therefore, rather than thinking about permanency or non-permanency, think about how can I make myself agile enough, careerable, employable enough. That should be the thought.
Just to add an example for everyone, in 2015, okay, NASA, serious business. NASA, everybody knows NASA? Yes. Serious business, space exploration business. Can you have people on contract? Right? But in 2015, they, with the help of freelancer.com, made a mission critical component on a project basis, not even on contract, on gig. People were given $100 to do something, and there was a big team which was formed. The project manager was on gig, the coders were on gig, the mechanical part designers were on gig, the scientists were on gig. So you understand the context. Lifelong employment तो छोड़ो, एक दिन का भी आपको employment आपके capability में मिलता है. And there people have bid that I will do this job for $100. Another one say I'll bid it for $99, and it would go to the $99 because the person is bidding lower. So not only do you need to be employable, but you also need to be competitive and deliver the quality of the work. So by the time all of you, would be coming and sitting here and giving a lecture, you probably would yourself be on a gig model where there are a lot of job portals today which are talking about gigs available. So freelancer.com is one, upwork.com is another, where actually people are doing a lot of gig work. And that's where the moonlighting aspect also comes in, where these jobs are very readily, easily available. Okay? So lifelong to nahi hoga.
And one more question. As you must have heard the news that Accenture fired 10,000 employees because they found out fake experience and all. So in your sector, do you all do reference check, or you all have verification team, or what is that you do to verify if you have a proper team in your company?
Yeah, background verification is very much an integral part for us, and it is not done internally. In fact, we have partners, mainly because it requires also a certain level of expertise, and also connects right from, for example, when you're verifying the background, it's not just from work experience point of view, it's your academic qualification. So going back to, for example, Mumbai University to check whether this person actually graduated from Mumbai University and whether it was so and so person. Similarly, criminal background verification and cyber crimes, those are also looked at. And if there are any civil litigation cases that are, on the person, and not just that, in a small sense, moonlighting also gets checked. Like, for example, we had a couple of people who were probably floating their own company and running it while they were applying to us for a job. So when we investigated one or two of them, they just created it and they actually never did any operating business. But knowing that when you're applying to organizations and there is an expectation, again connecting that to moonlighting and also being authentic about the information that you are providing. Every company, any good company will have a form where you need to fill in your details, so it's better to just be completely truthful there, because I think most organizations are, here also having their background verification checks, and that's an integral part. For us, shipping, it's as in floating stuff, it's very simple. It's like your chartered accountant where you just put the CDC number on the portal by the government and you immediately come to know whether this person is actually holding a chief engineer's ticket or a master's ticket. But it may not be as simple in somebody who's applying for a shore office like HR department, IT department. Actually, is he qualified when he's saying he's BSc IT or MSc IT? Has he really done that or not, he or she? So those kind of things get checked through background verification process. And we do it for every employee. And a lot of reference check also happens post-joining. So it is very clearly a part of the joining letter that all information that you give has to be authentic, and if anything untoward comes in the background verification, you will obviously get a chance to represent yourself, but if you are not able to prove yourself there, then that's it, the permanent employment ends there itself, unfortunately. Yeah.
Just adding to what Savita said, I think BG checks are taken very seriously by all organizations. And especially in BFSI, it's not just your work experience and your qualifications, but something as simple as CIBIL scores, which is your credit worthiness gets checked before an employee kind of joins us. So that's the formal part of the BG check. But there's also an informal setup wherein, if you know where the person is coming from, you check, you look at your network to understand, the fitment, the culture, the background. So BG check is both formal and informal and a must have in all organizations, in my opinion.
And by the way, some organizations also check how you're behaving on social media. Yeah. So moral ethics, doing the right thing, all that goes along you.
Can I ask you why you want to know about it?
Because I was thinking like 10,000 people fired at once, then why didn't they do it previously? Like it took so long time.
Third question? You got three questions.
You got three questions.
She's probably waiting for others to ask.
She's kept it in reserve.
Yeah, and the third question was regarding great resignation. So basically, during pandemic, many got laid off. And then people realize that they have different dreams and they want to do something else, and great resignation happened. So I wanted to know the challenges which you all faced during that time to retain employees.
People leave the organization because of what?
Bad managers.
Bad managers. So if you address that problem, lot of things will be taken care. So still insurance industry is one of the highest in the attrition point of view. BFSI, we're still facing, but that's a fundamental problem which we are trying to arrest and address, all of us collectively. We are making our managers to be better, unless and until their team members are staying with them at least for 2+ years and also being a productive employee. Non-performance रहेगा और 2 years तक manage करोगे, वैसा नहीं होता ना. But having said that, there is fundamental reason which is a myth currently. If I am getting a 30%, 20% hike outside, I'll go. They will do for the first 5 years in the career. Or if not done in the 5 years, later they will do it. Unless and until they got a right message. But as an employee and a professional, we also need to check whether the culture of the company is good to have. Brand, visibility, and more importantly, what is the employee benefits they are offering. So these are certain basic things which you have to check before joining the organization. Check the company's LinkedIn post, check the company's Facebook post, check the company's financial highlights. These are certain things which you need to do a homework before you joining a company. And also understand the offer letter end to end. That's a 10,000 employees who fired, unko bhi offer letter tha. We read and we understand and we ignore. But spend some quality time in terms of imbibing that within yourself. Is there something which is bothering you? Call, check, ask and do document that in a way. These are something which can be helpful.
Thank you.
Good evening, respected professionals. I am Dr. Kavita Pandey. I am the placement officer of this institute. So my question is also pertaining to the placement and employability of my students. So while hearing to all of you, I understand that the future of workplace keeps on changing and it's going to be very, very dynamic and agile. So definitely we also agree that management education also needs to be redefined to get in that pace. So my questions to all the panelists, that what are your suggestions in terms of building personal and professional development programs to enhance the employability of our students? Thank you.
So I'll try and all of you could add. There are different ways of learning, okay? As you move from young generation to adolescent to adults, there are adult learning principles. And different person learns differently. All of you have heard about this? You believe all of you are different? Yeah? In our family, not two siblings are same, right? So all of us are different. And therefore, one particular teaching methodology may not help everyone. I've seen that with my own children. And there is a huge disparity, and they're really opposites. So I believe if you can use 70-20-10. How many of you are aware of 70-20-10? Hello? 70-20-10? Can you raise your hands? No. Okay. So when we say 70-20-10, 10 means classroom learning, e-learning, self-learning. Okay. Uh, 20 is assisted learning, which could be coaching, mentoring, buddy, and 70 is hands-on learning. You are exposed to a particular situation, you are thrown into a project, you get your hands dirty, and that is 70 of learning. I personally believe it is in that ratio also, but need not be. But I believe that maximum learning comes from practice, doing it yourself, getting your hands dirty. If you can adopt 70, 20, 10 in anything that you do, then that will be a great way of teaching. The way you've called us, you've got the 20 involved, right? So if you can do something like that with organizations like us and many other organizations, that will be great.
I'll just add on a little. So reflecting back to how did I equip myself to kind of enter the corporate world is take as many internships as possible. There is summer internship, winter internship. I mean, organizations are always looking for interns. You may not be doing the most neatest of jobs there, but you will get to know the ways of working, what kind of roles. Does HR really interest you, or is it a perception that you have that you are a people's person, so you'll be good at HR? So try to do as many internships as possible. Don't moonlight, don't bunk your classes, but take a stretch because this is the prime of your time. If you can cut down on your social media and your socializing activities and invest that time there, then do that. I think in 2 years of my MBA, I kind of did 4 or 5 internships, some small, some long, but it definitely gave me a lot of exposure and networking with multiple organizations. So that's A. B, unlike earlier times, there is Coursera, Udemy and LinkedIn Learning, what not available. YouTube, I mean, why the paid ones? The free YouTube is available for all our learners. So can we kind of equip ourselves in terms of basic skill sets, like maybe to begin with PowerPoint and Excel. I think Excel is widely used in all the organizations, how much ever automation we say. Excel is widely used, and what we probably know in the stage that you are in is very minimal, and there is lots that can be done with things like Microsoft Office. So pick up those skills. Know more about the subjects that is getting taught. I mean, if OB is a subject, that doesn't end with the semester that you have. Can you do courses, to upskill yourself so that you become more relevant and stay ahead of your peers when you are facing those interviews, when you are communicating with corporates. If you're going to, in a panel discussion or during a placement discussions, ask relevant questions to your interviewers. That gives the comfort that this person has a high learning orientation, is up to date, and my investment to get him or her to speed will be much lower, and that's a plus point for me. So take the ownership of learning to yourself. College and institutes will do what they need to do, but it's at the end of it, you prioritizing and you planning where you want to be when, and working backwards to see what should you do to get there where you want to be. So that's my opinion there.
I would also like to add there that raise the expectation from yourself and people around you. That is, even before you reach out to your teachers, first of all, if you're a group of 100 finance students in a class, or 100 or 50 or whatever it is, if you do not expect much more than what you are doing today for yourself and from people around you, how are you going to meet the expectations? What's going to come to you, that's a hard reality. So if there are finance professionals here, it is not just about knowing the financial fundamentals, it's about knowing how to apply it. It is about, if you fear going and talking about it in a forum, that is exactly what you need to do. You need to be a part of a group discussion, fail till you get it right. So this is the best time of your life where you can fail multiple times and still rise. In organizations, you may still have that luxury only maybe in the, maybe in the management trainee phase of your life. At some point, there's always going to be that accountability expectation chasing you much faster. But as a student, there should be absolutely no fear to try and test everything about what you need to do well. It is not about only those set of people who went to that college and here are going to achieve it. That is no more true. You have to, if you know that that is not where you are, in an entry point, what is it that takes you to reach that dream company so that they look at you equivalent as something? You have to ask yourself. That is how I would, simply put it. Because otherwise we can keep being those who will keep blaming everything on, because this didn't happen, so that didn't happen, and hence this, and then you're always on the receiving end. I don't think one should be there. That's all.
Very interesting and diverse viewpoints. Okay, we'll take one last question, and this one has to come from the backbenchers. All right, we have one. The mic, please. One last question.
So good evening everyone. I'm Tejaswini Gaikwad from GMES Institute of Management. My question is, can hybrid working model help in reducing the retention in banking sector?
Helps in improving retention.
Yeah.
Okay.
The moment we say come to office all the days, we saw few resignations, then we understood, then we got to know there are people, the ailing parents in the home, there are some dependents who need assistance, and so on and so forth reasons. It has really helped us, and as an outcome of this, apart from the 6 months maternity break, we give 1 year work from home opportunity for the female colleagues, and we have also given adoption benefits and paternity leaves and all. So straight away answer, it has helped us, but whom? The people whom I said in the support role, strategic role, all the stuff, but it has helped in the sales role. Unfortunately, we could able to materialize few people where we have created additional position code, and these people are moved to some different roles or same role, work from home option, but sales it hardly works. Maybe Neetu can add.
I have a similar view like Senthil. In certain roles it helps.
In certain role it does, because way of working is not the only factor why people are leaving, right? So it just impact to a certain extent. If the other things don't change, like he spoke about manager and culture and all of that, if that's intact, then people will still make that stretch. I mean, look at Savita. I just asked her, how is she traveling from Malad to Worli for like last 18-20 years. So people will make that stretch if you really feel connected to the organization. In certain roles, in certain cases, medical, otherwise, it might be beneficial.
Thank you so much.
I think, okay, ma'am has one question.
There are two questions. All HRs are sitting in front, so students are actually...
I only request, you could able to influence the last 3 benches, and if you could raise a question from them, there is a chocolate for you.
Give them the deadline.
Last 3 benches,
There's a question from here. Could you give them the deadline?
Good evening, sir, ma'am. You all were talking about moonlighting effect. So, you all talk about hobbies ka thing, right? One from finance guy could work for content marketing or something like that. So, I just want to ask, can we consider like working from a same background? Like, I am a marketing person. Let's say I want to work into different industry from the same profile. Can this be considered as moonlighting?
By definition, yes. If you have like proper employment in 2 different places without informing the employers, it will still be considered as moonlighting. However, if you kind of can have a transparency wherein A, look at your contractual obligation, does it permit for that you can have additional roles in other industries, other organizations, that is A. B, if it is possible or if you want to kind of look at still doing that, have conversations. Ask if this is permissible, because I want to probably work with an NGO or do something which is not in direct conflict of interest. With permission, I think you can always explore. So that's my take on it.
Thank you. Okay. Just wanted to add on, some organizations are okay if as long as you're not taking money. For example, us for example coming and doing this conversation, we're sharing our knowledge with you, right? And we may be sharing our knowledge in equally industry forums. That is okay, but there are some pros and cons there which you need to tread carefully and seek permissions, ask permissions.
Yeah, directly connecting to the question you asked, one of my friends, she owns and runs an e-learning company. She has 25% to 30% of her workforce who are completely contractual, and it is an agreement that they will be working on projects with other companies as well as hers, with proper defined needs as to project timelines, expectation. One of the things that she says, a lot of them are content designers and they find it very interesting and much more learning oriented to work with multiple industries because they are able to bring in those multiple perspectives. But for example, if she is working for, say, she's doing a project, for example, for Asian Paints, she will have her, do's and don'ts of what she cannot do, and hence she will not even take people who are working for another company which is in the same industry doing the same kind of role, because she will take care of that conflict of interest. So it is that onus, the moment you decide you want to do the same thing for multiple, one is your intent, communicating that intent and being very clear as to how the organizations you're supporting looks at it. Like what the panelists said, the transparency, being very clear about that, and as long as, okay, you're doing that and they know you're doing this and they're okay with it, I think that could be a future for many roles as well. May not have caught up so much yet, but it could be one of the things that could emerge in future.
Let's take the last question.
They have a question and they have written down a question, so on their behalf I would
Why
like
are
to,
you asking the question?
he is not willing to ask. Sorry? Yeah, they are the students. But they are hesitating to ask that question, so on their behalf I would...
No. Ask them to ask.
Go ahead.
Stand up.
Good afternoon. I am
Good
about this. How can you have a virtual workforce on the shop floor? The quarantine of people who went out of the work affect your work? My question is on quarantine days.
So, thank you for the question, and you have a very good voice. I think you should speak more. So, our workforce, and that just to add a little bit of more flavor to the discussion, during COVID, we operated with almost nil management staff and 60% of our workforce, and our productivity was the same. So, which gave ideas. Is the mic working?
Yeah. You are telling us to go home. That's okay.
So my management staff asked if during COVID people can work and be so productive, why do you need suddenly, because COVID has gone, you need so many people? Anyways, that's the way of looking at how to improve performance. To come back to your question, during COVID, there were people who were quarantined and they didn't come. All of us stretched more on the shop floor, and a lot of us were there in the factory for 12 hours, 14 hours. There were some set of people whom we had made living quarters inside the factory. So they didn't have to leave the factory. The people were there inside 3-4 months. So all we had to do was a logistical work, because everything else was inside, machines, etc., and the people were inside. Right? So that's how we did.
One question here.
Yeah, so since we had two questions that Shweta spoke about great resignation, and then we had one question coming from behind about the employees' attrition rate, right? Just like Senthil sir pointed out on companies' work culture that defines, the attrition rate. So I have a question on what are the top 4 things that our leaders can do to have a good work culture in a company. Since we have 4 panelists sitting here from different companies, my question is to all 4 panelists, if you could answer one by one.
I was wondering why top 4 only. One from each.
One each.
Let's start.
Start.
My topmost would be communicate, because I think communication is the key, and what happens is, especially what we noticed in the initial phase of the pandemic, is only a select few were a part of lot of things, right? So was it really percolating down, you know? So we did have our discussion on are we communicating enough within this whole virtual setup, because each person is then following their own things and they have their own idea of how things are working in the organization. So communication from right from the MD to the executive directors to the CFO and the HOD, but each of them would carry different communication pieces which will open up things in a transparent way. So that's the first one I would like to take.
I'll continue in the C theme. So after communication, for me, two of the important ones are building culture and having the right connect with employees. Okay? That's where leaders can really contribute. And when we hear culture, we think it's a very complicated term. It actually is. But what it all boils down to is what are those common behaviors in an organization. If this room has everybody doing one common behavior, that would somewhere tell us about the culture of this particular group at this point of time. If the culture of the organization, leaders have a very large influence on how the culture is built. Okay, and leaders build it through extreme amount of communication, town halls, one-to-one meetings, etc., and building connect. That's where the third C comes in. Build connect across the organization, and that's what leaders can do. Right?
So I'll break the C things, and what I think leaders must do is empower people. Can you decentralize those power junctions, and in whichever role you are, empower you to take charge of your roles, make those decisions which you're closest to your task, right? So if from a hierarchical structure you are empowered to make those decisions and take accountability for that end to end, I think a lot of correct culture building will really start from there.
All important points are covered. We will have a fifth also. She handles the crew. All are relevant and important, but I am hiring a human, not a machine. So first and foremost, as a leader, I need to understand him personally. What are his personal priorities / goals? It could be building a home. It could be taking the parents for the vacation. It could be saving for the child education, foreign education, whatever it may be. If I could able to understand one's personal goals, link it to financial, as a manager I can give assurance that all these things can be achieved if you are able to do these things in these timelines. And my job is to just remind him on his personal goal, not to ask him whether you have done his job or not. So I think this is something which I feel a leader should personal interest towards there in terms of empathizing with them and helping them achieve their personal goals. It can be in the financial norms, it could be on any other academic norms also. Fifth is okay.
Additional bonus for you. I think 2 points for me, not only one. First thing is supervisor doesn't need to wear a hat of a supervisor or a manager. You could be a friend, you could be at that same level. Then the equation builds on. Second thing is for me is authentic leadership. For me, authentic leadership means being self-aware. What is it that I am? And being vulnerable of what I'm not good at. Okay, being transparent. And third thing in authentic leadership is sticking to your principles and values even when the situation is not right. When the situation is difficult, but you're sticking to your values. You're not letting go of that. That to me is leadership.
You see, HR leaders love to talk.
Since you asked a question in a very academic fashion, I was missing Salil a lot. He would have loved to, since he is not physically present in the session. Virtually, his best hours are 5:30 in the morning when I'm barely awake, and all the discussions for today's session, happened at that hour, 5:30, 6:30. We were discussing on what all points and all. And one of the books he had shared called Redesigning Work by Linda Grayton. And he's an avid reader, so I'm really right now missing him not being here in this forum. But the book very beautifully put the 7 C's that are a must for virtual working, and I thought it captured it quite beautifully. So the 7 C's basically that put together were communication, clarity, connection, culture, consistency, community and collaboration. So which very well in different ways have come from all the panelists, and I think it is definitely coming from surveys that have been done across the world and then talking about it. So I would urge you all to read more and also build that kind of knowledge to be able to apply at workplace actually.
I think we'll close and hand over back to you. Thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you, Anju ma'am, and thank you all the panelists sitting here. As we now come to an end of our today's event, we would like to call upon our placement officer, Dr. Kavita Pandey, to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mansi. Good evening, respected professionals, dear faculty from our institution and from different colleges, and dear students. I think now I'm audible. Yeah. So technology and innovations have been spoken a lot, maybe before COVID and after COVID. But one thing which I found is very, very important is human touch and personal connect. That really needs to be built up, that really needs to be seen, not only from the workplace perspective, but also from your own personal and professional perspective. On behalf of my institute, I would like to propose the vote of thanks to first and foremost the NHRDN Mumbai chapters for their collaboration, and special thanks to Professor Vijay, the President NHRDN Mumbai chapter, for his kind present and valuable insights related with the theme. That is on management of virtual workflows, and Ms. Pratima also for your kind coordination for this event. We also offer our heartfelt gratitude to wonderful panel speakers, which I would like to start with the moderator of the day, Ms. Anju Jumadeh ma'am, Mr. Senthil Kumar ji, Ms. Neetu Thomas ji, Ms. Savita Krishnamurthy ji, and Mr. Babu Bhaskaran ji, who have covered the various interesting aspects of today's theme, such as hybrid model workplace, well-being session for employees, emotional connect with employees and employers, using technology from onboarding to exist, quasi-attritions, collaboration and trust, creativity and innovations. So I think they have covered almost everything which is important for the management of virtual workplace, and which is a great learning insight for all of us. The HR horizon could not have become the reality unless the convener and host from Institute taken the initiative. I propose my vote of thanks to Institute Director Professor Smita Shukla ma'am, Professor Deshpande ma'am, and Dr. Nena Salve for conceptualizing, coordinating and smooth conduct of the process. We are also very thankful to the students, volunteers, I say community. Without them, we cannot run any of our events. They are our lifelines. Because of them, we survive. So especially I would like to thank the HR students of MMS course and other students from different specialization who volunteered for the program, extended their support to us and made this today's program a great success. The Institute always recognizes your efforts and we are very thankful to you. Last but not the least, my vote of thanks also goes to the administrative authority of Nanoscience Technology Building, who have allowed us to conduct our today's program in their beautiful seminar with equipments and all the technological infrastructure support which has come to us. Our university canteen person who has provided us night snacks, refreshments, and after the event there is high tea and refreshment also arranged. And Bajrang with your team for clicking our beautiful candid pictures and all the memorable memories today. Once again, thank you so much for organizing this program with us, NHRDN Mumbai chapter, and all the experts for being with us in our today's program. Thank you very much.
It was a wonderful discussion over the current trend of workforce management in various sectors. I am sure everyone in the audience here have had a great learning and understanding and gained immense knowledge from this panel discussion.
Before we leave, we would request you all to kindly stand for a national anthem.
जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंग तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you everyone. Here we conclude for today's event.